Hey, Tesla Canuck here. If you've been following my other videos, you'll know that we just got back from a pretty long journey with our Tesla Model 3. We covered about 2,000 kilometers, which is about 1,240 some odd miles. So it was a pretty long journey. And we learned a number of things along the way. This was our first super long road trip in a Tesla, so we didn't know what to expect for sure. So what I want to do is I want to take everything that we learned on that trip, and I want to talk to you guys about it, just so that when you plan your trip, you'll kind of have this information in advance, and hopefully it will be helpful for you. So anyhow, in no particular order, I just want to cover a number of things here. One, no particular order, like one. The first one, research your stops in advance using Tesla's trip planner. Now the reason you want to do that is because sometimes there are multiple supercharging locations along your route, and you want to make sure that you're selecting the best one for your needs. So if there's more than one, you're going to double check. You're going to see, well, what restaurants are there, what stores are there, what else is there that I might need, washrooms, other amenities. So take a look at that. The other really important reason why you want to do that is you also want to see which supercharger locations have the most chargers. You'll see, for example, that some chargers will have as few as 4 or 6 chargers, whereas others will have as many as 20 or 30. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you choose the ones that have the most number of superchargers. Now the reason for that is it's less likely that you're going to show up and have to wait. If you have a location that has 30 supercharging stations versus 4 or 6. So the other thing too is that you're less likely to have to share a circuit with somebody. And when you share a circuit on the Tesla charger, you might notice that many of them are labeled 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. That's because of the ways the superchargers have been architected. So each stall, if you will, actually has one circuit, but there are 2 superchargers attached to it. So if it's a 120 kilowatt charger and both circuits are in use, both people are only going to get half of the 120. So they will share that 120 kilowatt circuit, so each get 60. That increases the time that it takes to charge your car. So make sure, if you can, find a large supercharger location and one that you're least likely to be sharing with somebody in terms of that circuit, so you can maximize your efficiency and charging time. Okay? Only charge to 80% at a supercharger if possible. And the reason for this is you might come across a supercharging location that is busy, and it takes an additional 40, almost 50 minutes sometimes to get from 80% to 100%. And if you don't need to juice up to 100%, then you're causing potentially delays for other Tesla drivers who need to come in and charge. So just as a matter of courtesy, if it's at all possible with your route planning, try not to charge to more than 80% at a supercharger. It'll be great. It'll be less time for you. You're going to make sure that everyone else who's a Tesla owner that needs to charge is going to be able to find a spot. And the other etiquette piece I just wanted to mention is back to the sharing of the circuit. So when you pull up, try not to pull up next to another Tesla owner. Try to make sure that you are selecting a charger that is free, and that it's not part of a circuit that some other Tesla owners is currently using. So that's just another matter of etiquette there. Let's see here. If you're going to be in an area that doesn't have a lot of superchargers, and a really great example of this is Atlantic, Canada, where there are few to none. Really, I think one has gone live now in New Brunswick, and that's obviously not enough. So you want to make sure that you've researched all of your level 1, level 2, level 3 charging options along the way, and just in case you need those, right? Some other strategies, if you're going to be away from supercharger locations, is you can take a look at some of the Airbnb listings Some of them will list Tesla wall charging or NEMA 15, what are they, 1540, 1550, whatever the NEMA chargers outlets are. And if you can find those along your route, you can do something really clever. I wish I could take credit for this idea. It was actually my wife. She contacted an Airbnb by email and just said, hey, listen, we're passing through. We need to juice up for a couple of hours. Would you be willing to let us do that? Naturally, we would compensate you. And of course, they got back to us. They said, yes, there's no problem. No need to compensate us. We're happy for you guys to stop here and to charge up for a couple of hours. So that's a really great tip, and one that I hadn't thought of. All right, moving along. Stay at a hotel that has destination charging, if at all possible. It's really great to wake up in the morning and be juiced up to 90% and just ready to hit the road. So that's another really great tip that can help you in your journey. The other thing too, while we're on the topic of hotels, try to avoid the valet if you can, especially if you have a Model 3, and I'll tell you why. We had a situation where they had no idea how to use the NFC, hotel card for the Model 3 to start it and to get into it and all this kind of stuff. And you might explain it to one person who's there that night, but then the next morning the person's not going to know how to start the car, and who knows what happens from that point, right? The other thing too is that if you read the back of the valet slip, most of these hotels basically contract their way out of any liability in terms of any damage to your car and that kind of stuff. So I don't really like that. So if possible, I always self-park. So just another quick tip there. If you need extra range, and I'm going to do a whole video segment on this piece right here, but drafting behind a truck is definitely a way to economize on your energy efficiency. This isn't scientific, but based on anecdotally what I've seen, you're going to save anywhere between maybe 10 and 15% of your rated range by drafting behind the truck. Now, keep in mind, you have to be very careful when doing this. So when I do this, one of the things that I do, and again, I'll do a whole video on this, but make sure you choose your truck really carefully, right? You want to make sure you choose one that has really good mud flaps at the back, or something that will prevent stones from being thrown up from the back of the truck, from the tires. You don't want to get your car dinged with stone chips just because you're drafting. The other thing too is make sure you choose a truck that is rectangular, has good height to it, something cylinder-like, like a gas or a milk truck or something. Those aren't as good. Something hauling logs isn't as good. So try to find a nice, tall, square, rectangular. You know what I mean? Like a regular kind of truck box, right? The bigger, the taller, the more of the wind it's going to cut off and improve your efficiency. So I hope that made sense. I don't know. You know what I'm saying, right? So it's a good idea to do that. When I do that, I put it on autopilot. I set it to a distance setting 1. Obviously you have to still pay attention. You're following a truck pretty closely, but it's fairly relaxing to the extent that autopilot is keeping that distance. You don't have to be on the gas, off the gas, on the brake, or anything like that. So it's not difficult to do when you're using autopilot. So that's another tip. And just lastly, probably the most important thing that we learned on our first EV trip, especially with the Tesla, I guess right now really only with the Tesla, traveling those distances in a car other than a Tesla, I don't even know if it's possible, because at least not in the time frame of a standard gasoline engine, if you don't have a supercharging network. The supercharging network really makes it possible to do these trips, and other EV owners might not be able to do the same thing if they don't have a supercharging network, right? So anyhow, you can go with your Tesla just about anywhere. I mean, of course, I'm eliminating the extreme stuff, like you probably can't drive up to Yellowknife, you know, way up north or something like that. But I think within reason, there really isn't anywhere you can't go with your Tesla. So that's kind of what we took back from it. Before we left, we had some range anxiety, I'll be honest with you, right? But after the first day and seeing what it's really like to travel with a Tesla for great distances, the next day, no range anxiety, right? It's getting that first one under your belt, and then that'll improve your confidence, and after time, you're just not going to have any range anxiety at all. So that's it. Hopefully these tips are useful to you. Thank you for watching my channel, and please subscribe. Safe travels to everyone. Tesla Canuck, over and out.